the assembly race coming up, and there's a primary, of course, coming up on Tuesday, the 118th Assembly District, currently held by Assemblyman Mark Butler. He's being challenged by Patrick Vincent, who is from the new... Patrick, you're from, is it Newport or Poland you're from?
Actually, I'm from Coldbrook, born and raised in Coldbrook.
Coldbrook. Actually, my mother's family came from Coldbrook, interestingly. Anyway, so here we are. We're just a few days away. This is the heat of the race. And what are your feelings? What are your thoughts?
Oh, hey, it's been just fantastic. This past week's been a whole host of good news coming in. Recently, the United Mine Workers of Remington Arms, Local 717, endorsed me. Clearly sending a message that change is needed in Albany.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And what are your what if you end up in Albany as our assemblyman? What changes would you make? What will your vision be in Albany?
Well, what I've always been doing, Bill, my whole life is calling people out for not doing their jobs. I mean, clearly, with the SAFE Act, one of our biggest problems with the SAFE Act is our own Republican leadership votes for it, and not only that, but supports it. You know, I've called John Flanagan out about this and a number of times. And it seems to be getting a little bit of traction now, but I think that's overwhelmingly the reason why people are endorsing me. Yeah.
And how do you, I mean, going into the assembly, you're going to be in a situation where you're going to be in the minority. And I know you've heard people talk about this, and you know what you're getting into. And, you know, there's a fear right now that the Republicans could lose the Senate, which would be really disastrous for upstate. How do you get something done when you're facing so many liberals downstate?
Well, that's a good question, Bill. You know, here's the thing. Being in business, you've always had the power of negotiation. You always work with people, and being able to talk to people is a really big issue for me. You know, clearly, you know, when you're out there and small businesses ask you to do something for them, you get it done for them. You know, it's just something that you demonstrate goodwill all the way around. But more importantly, it's important to build a good relationship, even across the aisle, like the Brindisi and Griffo coalition over there in Oneida County. Mm-hmm. That's the same identical thing that I like to do over here in Herkimer County. And you may have to reach across the aisle, and you will have to reach across the aisle, no doubt, to make things happen.
So, you know, the Assemblywoman, the position that would be your neighbor, I guess, in the Assembly, Assemblywoman Claudia Tenney, really stood firm, stood strong, and didn't waver on those issues. You're saying that you would work more like a Griffo and a Pacini?
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, Griffo.
In order to get something done, and being outnumbered as you are, there is a big difference between me and other people. I will, and you have to. I mean, hey, listen, I'm not in favor of all the Democrat policies, but in order to get something done, you have to reach across the aisle and be willing to negotiate.
All right.
Absolutely.
And I would, by the way, I talked to you earlier about this, but as in a disclaimer, I was hired personally by Assemblyman Butler to do his commercials, just in full disclosure. But I'd ask you on nanotechnology, where that's something I believe that Butler voted for, and Tenney voted against. Where would you be on the nano bill and all the proposed stuff that's they say is going to happen here?
Yeah, hey, we're all excited for nano when it happens. It is great and fascinating technology. I just hope that the companies start ponying up some money here. I think New York State's put up enough right now. I really would like to see the companies, you know, GE and the Austrian company come in here and start saying, hey, here's our $500 million now, and here's what we want to do, and start moving things forward. This is exciting. The area really needs it, and I think it's going to be fantastic when it happens. However, I just caution that this doesn't turn into a money pit where New York State taxpayers are always going to have to be in there for another $100 million because they got to change tooling because the technology will constantly change. Nano is always going to be in a state of flux because as technology changes, you know, those wafers and those things that they're going to be making up there are always going to be shrinking in size or getting bigger in size depending on what they're looking at to do. So I would really be cautious that these companies don't hold us as hostage to taxpayers for more money constantly.
Pat, I know you said you were looking forward to reaching across the aisle when it was appropriate. Are there specific things that the incumbent, Mark Butler, did or did not do that kind of prompted you to run or that you would have done differently?
Well, that's another good question, and here's the bottom line. You know, when you look at our communities are failing dramatically. Herkimer County is struggling horribly, and so is Fulton County. they need someone who is going to be proactive. Hey, I've been out there. I've got a proven ability to acquire funding for economic development and help small businesses. My latest greatest achievement was the Old Forge Hardware. They came to me this past January and asked me to give them a little helping hand with something. So I went out and found them some grant money. They wanted like $60,000. We ended up getting them 20, but I turned that money around for them like in 6 months. My question is, if I can do this as a private businessman, why can't our legislators get this thing done more often for people?
Can you expand on that? Was it a state grant that you found out was available? To talk more about that.
Oh, oh yeah, we've done tons of money with the state. We've got over $2 million from the state. This was a federal thing. This comes from USDA funding. It was fun. It really was. You build a team. One thing about being successful in business is you put good people around you, which I always have been able to do. That is why you succeed, and this is why being a new guy in the block and a businessman in there, I will put people around me and I will demand results.
All right. Of course, the primary is coming up on Tuesday. This is these districts. One thing that we'd ask, would hope that would be done down the road is a proper redistricting. I mean, and the Tenney, the 101st is just brutal.
It's ridiculous.
Well, hey guys, I'm going to tell you flat out. I don't have any sympathy for what's going on over there. I've worn out 4 pairs of sneakers. Well, I should say I'm on my 4th pair of sneakers now.
And the 118 is a huge district as well. It's very difficult when you're looking.
I mean, guys, give me a break here. I mean, I don't want to hear about somebody else's problems. I got enough of my own over here. But here's when it comes to how they're running for their district. Hey guys, I'm out there. After the first 1,000 homes you visit, you get pretty limber on your feet.
I'm sure. Yes.
Okay, and I've been to over 8,000 homes. And I've visited tons of people, and the stories that I've been getting in have just been overwhelmingly supportive. And people, Bill, I got to tell you, one of the biggest strategies I came up with was putting term limits on my road signs. It is the most talked about sign. People call me up and they said, "I don't know who you are, Mr. Vincent, but I'm voting for you because of term limits."
Now, are those term limits for
all legislators, even our governor should be under term limits.
Got it.
This is the people of the United States and basically in New York State overwhelmingly support term limits. It is an issue that's out there, and they're sick and tired of entrenched incumbents staying in there for office for a career politician job.
What would you say would be fair in terms of term limits? What would you be looking for?
8 years. 8 years is fair, but I'm willing to accept. I'm willing to accept somebody wants to say 10 years, because in order to get a state pension, okay, if you want to stay that long, 10 years is the minimum that you can get. But I'm really not in favor of that. You're there to serve. When you get elected, you are sworn to serve the people. And that's, Bill. While we're on this topic, this legislature out there they're anticipating a 47% raise, and there's going to be a big vote on it coming up very soon. Hey, I'm going to fight against it all the way. But you know what? The most important way to fight against it is just plainly refuse to raise, which I will do. I'm not going there for the money. I don't need the money. I have a job. I'm well taken care of in my own business, and I have a good life going for me.
I want to ask you
something. I don't need it.
I'll ask you one final question on term limits. Opponents of term limits will say that what really ends up happening is, who there are no term limits on the staff and on the aides, and it's those people that support staff in these Senate offices and assembly offices that really would end up doing the work. Everything would kind of be the same because you'd be bringing in new people every 8 years. But the aides and the support staff would stay the same. Would you say that you'd have to change everybody? Would there be term limits even on your staff?
I would recommend, because the support staff is like, hypothetically, if I was to win, Bill, and which I believe I'm going to, by the way, Tuesday, I got to show that I have good confidence. But I've already indicated to the staff workers up in St. Lawrence County and to Fulton County that nothing will change inside my office. I really would like these people to stay. I don't want them to go anywhere. I really because you need some consistency, and you need some people that are going to be on the ground that are familiar with what's going on. So
right.
I would not want too much of that to change. But leadership. If you're a good leader, hey, people will respond to you. And like I said, Bill, if they're not doing their jobs, there's another alternative.
All right.
You gotta. Hey, the biggest problem with politics today is nobody's being held accountable, and they get entrenched and they stay there. And I'll tell you something. You talk term limits to anybody, I'll guarantee you that 80% of people you talk to out of 10 or out of 100 or even out of 1,000 will tell you they're in favor of term limits. They have had it with Albany, and they've had it with Washington, right up to their, well, as far as they can see.
Right up to there, as far as they can see. Patrick Vincent.
They really do not. They want something done about this.
The primary is coming up noon till 8. Voting will be noon till 9, on Tuesday, the 13th, this coming Tuesday. This is in the 118th Assembly District, and you're facing, of course, Mark Butler, who will be on in a few minutes. But Patrick, Vincent, thank you so much for taking the time this morning. We appreciate it.
And thank you, Bill.
All right. Have a great day. We'll come right back here.